Welcome back once again to the Healings by Jesus. Today we look at a healing or a miracle which has got a very brief mention. It's the third in line, and you see it mentioned in Matthew chapter 8 is verses 14 and 15, Mark chapter 1 verses 29 through 31, and Luke chapter 4 verse 38 and 39. Now this incident is also happening in Capernaum. After Jesus left the synagogue, after driving out the unclean spirit, he goes to the house of Simon Peter. And there he finds out that Peter's mother-in-law is in the house, but she is unwell. And Jesus immediately rebukes the sickness, holds her up, and heals her. And she stands up and immediately goes ahead to go and serve them and minister unto them. So this is the incident that is happening. Let's try to look at some of the lessons we can draw from this healing. The first lesson I want to bring to your mind from this particular incident is that your base location is crucial. Yes, you heard it right. The lesson from this miracle is that your base location is very, very crucial. Now, if you read this, you will find out that Peter's home is cited to be located in Capernaum. Now, when you read John chapter 1 verse 44, we find out that Peter was originally from Bethsaida. So, there are only two possibilities. The first one is that Peter had two homes. Now, being a fisherman, having two homes was quite an impossibility. And we also know from other portions that Jesus had his base in Capernaum. So I think I am more inclined to assume that Peter made a decision to move his base location from Bethsaida to Capernaum. Now Capernaum was more closer to the sea, so it definitely did make look like a sound decision as far as his profession was concerned. But I think Peter had on mind greater things. One is that if Jesus is in the same town in which he is also located, or vice versa, he can minister or serve unto Jesus whenever he needs it. He can also be a part of the hospitality team that will entertain Jesus and usually the large number of his guests. And while he is doing all this, he is also much closer to his home. So I think in terms of a decision that he made about moving his location from Bethsaida to Capernaum, it was a win-win situation. So it was good professionally, it was good in terms of what was the priority now in his life, to be closer to his master, to be closer to Jesus, and at the same time he was not turning a blind eye to the needs of his family. But I'm also sure of one thing, that Jesus had no role to play in asking Peter to move from Bethsaida to Capernaum. Now I want to ask you, how do you make your decision on where you should be located? I have more often seen that people base this decision in a more professional way. So they're definitely worldly wise, but I'm not sure about what kind of eternal possessions they will be able to amass by this decision. Peter did not make a worldly wise decision, perhaps, we don't know, because he would have had to sell it off in an emergency at a lower price and settle off for whatever he got in Capernaum. So it could have been an unwise decision also, but he followed the advice of Jesus, which says that seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Now all these things that were added into Peter's life doesn't seem to be too much. I mean, there was definitely no luxury adding up to Peter's life, because in all probabilities Peter was still living in a hut. But remember, Jesus, the King of Kings, had just walked into his house, and suddenly, because the king was there, that hut, because of his presence, had become a palace. So your decision of where your base location will be is very crucial. It is in your hands, and you will have to be careful in taking a decision where you have a win-win. You cannot compromise on priorities of the kingdom just because you have to be worldly wise. So that is the first lesson I want to bring to your mind. Your base location is very, very crucial. The second lesson I want to bring to your mind from this portion is that taking care of older folks is necessary. Taking care of older folks is necessary. Now, Peter's mother-in-law was staying in his house. Now, we have no indication whether it was a permanent shift or a makeshift arrangement where she was making a casual visit. But when you look at that whole incident, it gives an idea that she was there for perhaps a longer time. And we can even assume that the father-in-law was no more. So probably they had taken the decision to bring her home so that they could take care of her. And it's a commendable thing that Peter agreed to this arrangement. He and his wife honored the parent by doing so. And I think every godly person should take the responsibility of taking care of their older people and cater to their needs. Remember, they spent a good part of their healthy life, a good part of their young and healthy life to make a life for us. And now, when they are spent, will we not take care of them? So I think it is just fair that when they are not healthy, we will let them to be with us. I propose that we should be proactive in serving the elderly like Peter and his wife were. Now, what was good for Peter was that his mother-in-law was actively involved with the daughter in taking care of things that happen in the house. So she was not a mere spectator or mere consumer. So if there are elderly people who are listening to me right now, I think you should try to adjust and try to be as helpful to your children if you are staying with them. And you should appreciate the fact that they have not abandoned you or let you be on your own, but they have included you into their family. 3 Gospels mention this event, even if it is for a brief moment. So I think it was an occasion that was held as a special event in the eyes and in the perspective of our Lord Jesus Christ. The sickness was perhaps just a fever. Luke mentions that it was a high fever, megalo fever. But however serious it was, the response of the Lord in staying back and agreeing to let this healed mother-in-law serve and minister to them gives us an indication that he was very pleased with what Peter had decided and how he was honoring her. So the second lesson, I repeat, that taking care of the older folks is necessary. The third lesson from this portion is right choices doesn't ensure a problem-free life. Right choices doesn't ensure a problem-free life. Now, we just discussed about 2 decisions that Peter took. The decision to be located at a place which was closer to where Jesus was dwelling, and the location to allow his mother-in-law to move in with him. So he was a good man and he was taking godly decisions. But that didn't ensure that his life was free of problems. We see that his mother-in-law got sick, and that would have added to the shifting and the other troubles that he was already having. It could have perhaps become an occasion for having a secondary discussion with his wife that whether did we take the right decision to move her in, have we added to our woes? But we don't see anything like that happening. In fact, they are trying their best to help the mother-in-law get well. So I feel he is almost experiencing this verse, which is actually a spiritual verse, but he is experiencing it in the literal sense, where Paul actually says that my body is dead because of sin, but my spirit is alive. So because of all the problems that were coming into his life, he would have felt physically or financially or in other ways like a dead man, but because of the Spirit of God, I'm sure he felt life. God's grace was there, and that was extended upon his family. Now, we do not know if Peter invited Jesus home or Jesus came on his home, but we can see one thing, that just after the problem, the healing also came to his house. So we will have trouble for a little while, but if it paves the way for Jesus to come to our home, how can we murmur when problems come? So I think our prayer should be, Lord, let anything come to my house, but just make sure that you come too. Let anything come to my house, but just make sure that you come too. So this is the third lesson. Right choices doesn't ensure a problem-free life. Now I come to the last lesson from this healing. The last lesson is, for God, man is above everything. For God, man is above everything. Now how do I come to this conclusion? When we look at all the three accounts and bring them together and try to understand what happened in Capernaum that day in Peter's house, I can see three different things. One is that Jesus is rebuking the sickness as if the sickness has ears to hear. So the first inference usually that we will make is that perhaps the sickness was because of an evil spirit, and therefore Jesus was rebuking the evil spirit and driving it out. But let me tell you, though there are some sicknesses which are brought about by evil spirits, not all sicknesses are by evil spirits. Now, many of the sicknesses are actually microorganisms that have started dwelling on us and have now attacked our body's defense mechanism. So it is just another organism. It could be a bacteria or a fungi or a virus which has now inhabited our body and is overpowering our defense mechanism. And Jesus is speaking, I believe, to these microbes. He is rebuking the microbes and saying that, what are you doing here? This is not your place. In fact, I feel it is a clear indication of Jesus that man is the most supreme of all his creation. He is above everything. And we see that again. And we see that in he speaking even to the microbes, not necessarily evil spirits all the time. So I always used to think of it only in those terms, but suddenly I felt a light when I thought of these in these terms. So this is one of the lessons I'm taking from this incident. The second thing I see there is that in the Jewish law, it was not good for a man to touch a woman, but Jesus doesn't just touch her, he helped her, he raised her up. So in doing that, Jesus was proclaiming that if a human is in need, no ceremonial law or requirement can stand in the way. That ceremonial law was only an outward expression of God's desire for the insides of man. But that cannot stand in the way of the healing. So man is above the ceremonial laws. Man is above all other creature. Man is above the ceremonial laws. And the third thing is, this incident, remember, happens on a Sabbath. The Pharisees, the scribes and their types wouldn't have liked it. They would have definitely taken offense if they were there. But Jesus is reminding us that man is not created for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is created for the man. The original intention was all twisted now. The original intention of Jesus or God in the Sabbath was that we will rest and also rest in relationships. But that rest had become now no work. Instead of rest, the focus was on no work. And in the focus turning, the the focus on the relationships also had got twisted. Jesus is restoring that and saying that relationships are important and resting in them is important, and therefore relationships need to be re-established and made whole. And Jesus doesn't mind if it's a Sabbath. He, in a way, according to the Pharisaic perspective, he broke the laws of the Sabbath and said that the man is above the Sabbath. So the fourth lesson, for God, man is above everything. Now this was a brief portion, and drawing out lessons from it was a challenge, but these were some things that blessed my heart, and I hope it blesses you too. So once again, I'll be back with you very soon with another lesson from another healing of Jesus. I hope this blesses you. Have a great day.